Bechatzrot Eloheinu Yafrichu Od Yenuvan Beseva Deshenim Beranim Yeyu Lehagid Ki Yashar Adonai Tzori Belo Havlatavo.
When I was introduced to how to get things done in my congregation, my first job was in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I was the assistant, huge congregation, and the rabbi, we sat in those big chairs, so you look little, and he had a little thing that he flipped open, and he had a red telephone, and he would call to the usher in the back for anything he needed. I'd just tell Janet I needed a microphone, but he'd be sitting on this red phone. I thought, how do you get away with this? But he called it his bat phone, and everybody was used to it, and if he needed something, he goes on the bat phone, and if something would just... It was quite the experience of my first pulpit, learning from this Rabbi Raskus in St. Paul. It was amazing. And he's the one who introduced me to this prayer on page 23, just for today. It was the first time I'd ever heard it, taken from 1920, of course, in the Boston Globe. And is there someone who's not going to be with us again, that leaving, that would like to lead us responsively? Page 23. Are you volunteering? Is that what okay. I saw you moving your hand this way.
He tried to volunteer her.
Okay, here. He was saying he wants you to lead it.
Yep, here we go.
No, you got it.
Just for today, I will live one day only, forgetting yesterday and tomorrow, and not trying to solve the whole problem of life at once.
Just for today, I will be unafraid of life and death, unafraid to enjoy the beautiful and be happy. People are as happy as they make up their minds to be.
Just for today, I will adjust myself to what is, and not try to adjust everything to suit me. If I cannot have what I like, I will try to like what I have.
Just for today, I'll be agreeable, cheerful, charitable, do my best, praise people for what they can do, not criticize them for what they cannot do. And if I find fault, I'll forgive it and forget it. I'll try not to improve nor regulate anybody except myself.
Just for today, I will have a plan. I may not follow it exactly, but I will have one. It will save me from worry, hurry, and indecision.
Just for today, I'll get people off my nerves and not get on theirs. I'll appreciate them for what they do and what they are.
Just for today, I will not show it if my feelings are hurt.
Just for today, I'll find a little time for quiet, to relax, realize what life is and can be. Time to think about God and get a better perspective of myself.
Just for today, I will look at life with fresh eyes and discover the wonder of it. I will know that as I give to the world, so the world will give to me.
Thank you. As we turn to page 24 and rise and continue with our call to worship the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam
Baruch Adonai
va'ed.
HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
May be seated. There's so much that we enjoy when we're hiking, walking around, and just getting out of the city and coming here, whether we live here or visit. Page 28 at the bottom of the page, let's continue responsively in English. As we join together on this Shabbat Eve, we take in the greatness of God's creations. As the snow melts on the mountain peaks on high, let our worries of the week flow away. And as the mountain springs give forth fresh water, let our souls feel refreshed. The creeks... Let our faith and love grow stronger. And as we stand in awe of the great beauty of the Rocky Mountains, let our faith in God increase and renew. Let this Shabbat be a time of peace. Top of page 30, as we join together, we'll join together with the Cantor and the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch
Shem Kevod, Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
As we continue.
Ve'ahavata et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha ve'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam Beshivtecha b'veitecha, uvlechtecha b'derech, uvshachbecha uvkumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, uvtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvishe'arecha.
We know that there's so many people from both coasts of the country watching us that we did a bar mitzvah, and there was a whole group from Philadelphia that said, wow, this is the first time we've ever seen you live. So wherever you are in Philadelphia, we're glad to see you virtual, and also out in California where we've got Seacrest and all the women that are out there watching us, and Ian and Liz are watching, so it's wonderful to know that we can still reach out to you, as we will, even when you go back to Florida and all those other places you said you're going. So, well, as the waters were closing upon the pursuing Egyptians, page 32, they joined together, Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot, Osef ele, Osef ele. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot, Osef ele, Osef ele. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh.
That would wake everyone up in here. That was wonderful. Well, Hashkivenu at the top of page 34, and this Shabbat evening as we seek peace and comfort, shield us from the hatred and destruction that plague so many corners of the world, and console us and those in need. The top of page 34.
This is a melody that was written by a good friend of mine by the name of Steve Brodsky, who is one of the music directors at Temple Emmanuel down in Denver. And it's a long time ago, on the 20th anniversary of my being at Road of Shalom, which would be 15 years ago, we did a little concert with Steve Brodsky and me and a third musician by the name of Hal Aqua. One of the highlights of the concert was this version of Hashkivenu, which is quite pretty, and I think you can pick it up as you go. So. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chayim. Ushma tzeitenu uvaweinu, ushma tzeitenu uvaweinu, me'ahata v'yad olam. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. Sing this Amen with me. Amen. 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 One more. Amen. Amen.
Thank you. That was beautiful, and we certainly needed that. Well, as we turn in our prayer books now to page 36, and taken from the book of Exodus, in 6 days the Lord created the heavens and the earth. The seventh day he ceased from his work and rested, and I'm guessing it's Debbie Friedman time.
Why not?
Okay.
Vishamru. Is it Debbie Friedman time? No, it's not. Probably not. On Vishamru? Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam oti leolam oti leolam Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam ki shesh yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam u'vayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam.
It's so nice that there's only 2 or 3 melodies that float around the country, and it's either Shlomo Carlebach or Debbie Friedman or one of the others that are even new. But when we come from so many different places and join together, that the tune is familiar to so many of us. And Mishaberach is one of those, that there's those in our community who are in need of healing, of body, mind, or spirit. If you have a name you'd like to share in just a moment as we move about the sanctuary, please do as we stop the top of page 38 and we join together. Mishaberach.
And this is Debbie Friedman.
Yes, it is.
Of course. Mishaberach Avotenu Kol HaBeracha Laimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
We keep in our thoughts and prayers those in need of healing, but especially this evening, the tragedy that happened in Washington, the president of Washington Hebrew, the large congregation where Louis Weiner, Elisa Weiner, and Zachary Weiner were in a horrible fire in a home that they were renting, and their 2 children were also killed. And we keep them in our prayers that they're alive, but they have to live with such a horrible tragedy. Also, Gail Balin, Sue Beiser, Linda Colin, Bonnie Colton, Blanche Deutsch, Lynn Deutschman, Carol Ann Finn, Jane Friedman, and Steve Friedman, Deborah Goldman, Cliff Goldman, Jeff Goldsmith, Mike Herman, Ken Imler, Donald Jaffe, Warren Janowitz, Mary Sue Katz, Skip Clowens, Herman Keek, Ryan Kushner, Renee Levine, Renee Myers, Stephen Reese, Chip Ruth, Roberta Scheller, Sam Schwartz, Bernie Shavitz, Ann Shelton, Bill Silvers, Dina Stempler, Maury Strauss, Alan Tenenbaum, Toby Weinstock, Tevi Wellens, Goldie Wetcher, and Mickey Winokur. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
sheberach imotenu kol haberacha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
I remember many years ago, we took the ordinary and turned it into the extraordinary for the Reader's Kaddish. Normally you get up, you say, Yikadal v'yikadash, which we do in every congregation. Oh no, we had to change it and then have a ritual committee meeting the following Monday. So on page 40, let's give this a try. We all rise.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah B'yamama B'yadi Beruchei B'yamelech Machutei B'chayechon U'vyomechon U'b'chayechecha B'eit Yisrael Ba'agala U'v'zman Karim Ve'imeru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'alam U'lamei Almaya Yitbarach ve'yishtabach Yipar ve'yitramam ve'yitnaseh Ve'yitzadavar ve'yitzaleh Ve'yitzalal Shemei Dekudisha Brichu Le'elam Minko Birchata Ve'shirata Tushbechata Ve'nechemata Damiran Be'yama Ve'imeru Amen.
Amen.
Imeru Amen. Amen. Ve'imeru
Amen.
Amen. Ve'imeru Amen.
And that's how I lost my job. Well, we'll continue on page 42. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. So we join Adonai Sfatai and then silently through page 49.
Yadadai dai dai, 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 yadadai dai dai. Adonai Sfatai tiftach, ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Yadadai dai dai, 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 yadadai dai dai.
may be seated when you completed the Amida. As we continue with our prayer for peace, page 54, Shalom Rav.
Shalom
Hava Yisrael Amcha Tsim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tsim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ra Yisrael amcha si olam. Shalom Ra Yisrael amcha Sim leolam. Lecha levarech et amcha Yisrael v'chol leitu v'chol sha'a b'shlomecha. Shalom Ra Yisrael amcha Sim leolam. Ra Yisrael amcha Sim leolam. Sim leolam. Sim leolam. Well, this weekend it's the beginning of Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, and so many tragedies have happened on this particular day. And I thought that I would try to put together the message that really comes of a message of hope rather than one of how depressing it was that the first temple, the second temple, both destroyed, as well as even the beginning of World War I. Well, when Elie Wiesel died a few years ago, the world lost one of its towering heroes and its moral leaders. Elie Wiesel was not only a witness to the Holocaust, but he was a leader, and he was certainly a prophet. He spoke on behalf of the victims of genocide and oppression that were everywhere. Well, he used to daven at the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York. It was the synagogue and also the school that I was attending for 5 years. And he would sit always in the front row, and you knew where he was davening, and it was an amazing spiritual experience to still have those great luminaries that were still alive. It was during a brief conversation at the Shabbat dinner, which we had after services every Friday night, and he turned to us and he challenged our faith and he inspired our commitment to Jewish life. Now, we were just young students thinking that, of course, we know everything because we're going to be rabbis. But he taught us that leaders have a responsibility not only to our people, but also to the whole world. You see, Wiesel was willing always to speak the truth, and he was never shied away from speaking to power. You might remember when Elie Wiesel challenged Ronald Reagan, he made it a very foolish decision that he was going to lay a wreath at the grave of the members of the SS during his trip to Berlin. Before a nation, Wiesel turns to me and says, "That place, Mr. President, is not your place. Your place is with the victims of the SS." Well, despite his experiences and his loss, despite a world that turned its back on him, Wiesel never gave up his faith, and he always loved his Jewish faith. He never stopped caring about others, and he taught us that you could be angry with God, but still believe in God. So when we asked him at one of the dinners that we were having, how is it that you could still observe Shabbat after all that's happened to you through the Holocaust and even up until now? And he said, it was a great answer, he says, just because I'm angry with God, why should I take it out on Shabbos? Well, we're now into the second decade of a 21st century, and we still haven't learned that lesson of indifference. The words of the popular Simon and Garfunkel song, "Silence like a cancer grows," well, silence and indifference, it's all around us. And of course, we can't save the world. But I think if you had to pick maybe one mitzvah as the most important in the Torah, we can go around and you'd say, well, belief in one God, thou shalt not murder, honoring your parents, all of those are important and definitely essential to humanity. But I think one of the most important commandments is lo ta'amod al dam re'echa. It says, don't stand idly by the blood of your fellow man. If you witness someone in trouble, you're obligated to turn to him or her. We have no right to turn a blind eye to those who are in need. Now, in Judaism, there's no such thing as a bystander. If you're a witness to something that's wrong, you're obligated to reach out in compassion and help. It goes a step further, because in Israel, not only is it what I just described, but it's against the law to be a bystander. Now, there's not that much that Knesset's ever going to really agree on, their parliament, but several years ago, they passed a law and they called it Lo Ta'amod Al Dam Re'echa law. Kind of a long law, but it said a person is obliged to proffer assistance when able to do so without endangering himself or his fellow to a person who is in close proximity. Not to do so, that's what was interesting, would make one guilty of breaking the law of the land. So it's significant that the number of members of the Knesset named the law after a verse in the Torah, unlike our Good Samaritan law. Israeli law says not only are you protected if you help someone in distress, but you're guilty if you don't. Well, Judaism challenges us, lo ta'amod al dam re'echa, don't stand by the blood, idly by the blood of others. Any Jew, any person for that matter, has no right to be indifferent for the suffering, no matter who the victim is. We can't save the whole world, but we're always told through the Talmud, maybe you can save one life. So when it comes to religion, indifference is probably the greatest detriment, I think, to our future. And indifference was written by Elie Wiesel. He said that it's more dangerous than anger and hatred. Anger can at times be creative. Indifference elicits no response. Indifference is not a response. He taught us to care, and his lessons reminded us that if we're uncaring about the world, about our way of life, or is simply about one another, then we have granted, he said, a posthumous victory to Hitler. He challenged us to wage war against indifference and despair. So on this, the eve of Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, well, this is the time really to reassess the things that really matter. We need to take action. Now is the time where we banish the indifference in all of our lives and instead turn despair into passion. Amen. Well, what a pleasure to be looking over there, and there you are. We did this for so long, for 6 years. You know, we didn't do Friday night services. It was kind of interesting. There was like a little minion that sometimes met.
No, you've forgotten that you were the founder of Shabbat Under the Stars.
Well, that is true. We would go outside, make believe it was Vail, and we did a service.
It wasn't Vail, but it was nice.
We got a nice crowd for Shabbat Under the Stars, but it was Saturday mornings, and it depended how fast Saul would daven, whether he had to be on the golf course by 1 or 2, never knew, but we knew what the services were. It was always
That's how you get fired.
Right. Right. But we had a great 6 years together, and then I said, I don't know if I could do any more years. I'm going to join the Navy. This has got to be
Knuckleball of all the choices, right?
A simpler experience. Well, tomorrow morning we have another great service, and this is down at Riverwalk. What's it called again? Riverwalk Backyard. If you go into the garage, you walk right out into it, and it's fabulous. So join us for services. We already have 75 reserved. Jeannie's not here. We can always take a few more. You know, we have a beautiful breakfast of lox and bagels and all that by Zach is going to put it out. And that's starting with the breakfast, and then for services, simple parking, really easy, and we're going to have a good time doing our last summer Shabbat service outside. The only other announcement before I introduce our president is that for those of you that would be interested in going to Israel this October, now is the time to, as I said in the newsletter, get off the fence, join us. It's going to be an amazing trip of some of the things we're going to go see. And one of them, which we get great ideas from all of you, for those of you that saw the show Shtisel on, I think it was on Netflix, where one of the young Hasidim becomes an artist. Well, his gallery's in Tel Aviv, where it was all filmed, and some of his paintings are actually there. So we just think of so many unusual and different things that we're going to go and do. Nice. Please join us. Give me a call if you're more interested. And now I turn it over to the president of our congregation, Steve Wellens. Here. Stephen?
Shabbat Shalom. It's nice to see a nice big crowd here. Hello, everybody watching the stream. A few months ago, the rabbi said, we've got this big event, August 6th. The Cantor's going to be away at a wedding. I'm going to bring the Cantor from Denver up. I think he'll do a good job. You didn't tell me about the Abbott and Costello show that's going to go on here. You two must have been a lot of fun doing this together, however long ago it was. Thank you, Cantor, for coming, and your lovely wife. We really appreciate it. Just a couple of things. The August 14 event is at 6 o'clock at Annette Raymer and Joe Ferrer's house. And I think the Book Hara is going to be live at Edwards or here? At the Brodsky's house. So if you're planning on attending the August 23rd Book Hara, Havara to be at the Brodsky's house live. Hopefully you join us August 15th at the hospital. We're going to talk about the Western Wall at the Conference Center. It's going to be a great introduction of what we're doing over there. What the gift we're giving to this community is going to live on forever, and I think it's going to be special. So it's a good chance to learn the history of the Western Wall. So with that, I say Shabbat Shalom. I hope to see everybody tomorrow at Riverwalk.
Thank you. So we have our Israeli tour guide who's actually going to be taking us to Israel coming. He'll be speaking at Annette's house about Israel, the latest, what's going on there, what are some of the sites that have not been seen that you might not have seen. That'll be wonderful, and we'll be serving falafel and hummus and pita and all the good stuff that you can't wait to have until you go to Israel. And then, of course, at the hospital. It's their hospital wing that we're going to be putting up the Kotel, the Western Wall, next summer. So if you want to learn more about the wall, the hospital employees, nurses, and doctors are going to be joining with us in the conference room down by the old cafeteria. If you'd like to join us for that, it should be really wonderful. Yes. You have to drop breadcrumbs at that hospital. But yes, they're going to put some signs out. If you go in the old entrance, which is the secret, you know, the way we used to go in, all you do is you walk straight, and then it's down in the basement. If you go in the main part of the hospital, we'll see you next month or something. It's very... I've lost my car twice. It's very challenging there. And they know that. And it's brand new. I mean, if you're making parking brand new, it's rough.
Page 60.
Thank you. As we turn to page 60 in our prayer books and rise, we'll all join together. Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, la'tei gedula le'otzer v'reishi, shelo asam kigoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol amonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shem Teshamayim v'yosei haaretz. Please sing after me. V'hashevota El livavecha Ki Adonai Hua Elohim. One more time. V'hashevota El livavecha Ki Adonai Hua Elohim. V'ne'emar V'hayav Adonai למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד.
In solemn testimony to that unbroken faith which links the generations one to another, we call to mind those whose yahrzeit we observe this month. Adele Abrams, Mark Albert, Charles Barrison, Jack Balin, Shirley Belcher, Ruth Cohen, Cantor Stephen Dubov, Richard Eisel, Lillian Ettinger, Irving Fielden, Beatrice Fliegelman, H. Mitchell Fox, Bernice Doris Garland, Ada Goldman, Fred Goldsmith, Louis Grossman, Jerome Heffer, Emil Hess, Eileen Joseph, Saul Kaufman, Susan Kaufman, Dorothy Keller, David Landau, Felix Landau, Sylvia Lantzman, Arthur Langzam, Leo Levy, Samuel Levine, Philip Leibowitz, Ermi Lindenfeld Heller, Florence Linz, Beverly Lopatin, Bernard Melvin Shapiro, George Micknick, Robert Morris, Joanne Seltzer Moskowitz, Sarah Mossman, Claire Numeroff, Dorothy Nurek Landau, Erwin Raymer, Lillian Rosenblatt, Leah Rothenberg, Julie Schechner, Ernest Scheller III, Morris Shore, Edwin Aaron Schwartz, Juliet Siegel, Zeke Siegel, Morris Shane, William Sigmund, Donald Steinberg, Thelma Stempel, Leonard Stern, David Waldman, Pauline Wolf, Julius Wolfen, and as I mentioned before, the loss of the two daughters in that horrible fire of Jillian Weiner and Lindsay Weiner. If anyone else is observing yahrzeit this month. The Mourner's Kaddish can be found in our prayer books on page 64. Those who wish may join in as we say, Yitzgadal v'yitzkadash shemei rabba, v'alma divrach hirutei v'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agalav izman kariv v'imramein.
Amen.
Yehi shmei rabba v'varach le'olam omei maya, yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei d'kudisha b'rechu. Le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran bi'alma v'imramein.
Amen.
Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imramein.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'imramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imramein. May be seated. Again, wonderful to see all of you, and it's just like friends coming back each summer, and then we look for you those couple weeks where you dip in during the winter, but we certainly have enjoyed, and it's not over. We still have Labor Day and the high holidays, so we look forward to seeing so many of you, and thank you. This has been a pleasure and fun, and we'll do more tomorrow. What do you say?
I think we're going to have to cut back on the shtick, though. I sort of got a message.
Okay.
Oh, no? It's good.
Well,
In
as
that
long as
case,
you,
let's
he
bring
said,
out the A material then tomorrow.
okay, he said, as long as we're running early, why don't you do a 20-minute sermon? No, that's not going to change. Yes.
A prayer for Israel. Rockets are flying from Gaza. They have been all afternoon.
I think we should. That's been a rough time. You're absolutely right. Thank you for reminding me. And we have that in here because we can say it together. Here it is. I know. Why don't we, since we don't have it it's in the Saturday morning book, but I think it would be nice to stand in our support for Israel. It's on page 70, and join it together in Hatikva to show our unity with all of them. Let's join together.
Page what?
70.
Kol hod
Baleva penima nefesh
Yehudi homia ufate Mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia od lo avda tikvatenu Hatikva bat shnot alpayim Liyotam chofshi be'artzeinu, be'eretz Zion, Yerushalayim, li'otam chafshi, be'artzeinu, be'eretz Zion, Yerushalayim.
Adonai oz le'amo yitena, Adonai v'recha tamova shalom. May the Lord grant strength into his people, indeed bring all peoples, especially as our hearts turn toward Israel, now and forever. Amen.
Amen.
We'll join together. I could have called you on that little phone.
Where is your magic red phone?
I've never seen anyone get away with that before. I wonder if they still have it. If somebody goes to St. Paul, Minnesota, and you go to Temple Vail, ask to see when the handle lifts up on the rabbi's side if there's a phone still in it. Let's join together in Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech
anything in there?
haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz
v'te'avon. Shabbat shalom. Bim bum bim bim bim.
Thank you.
Enjoy the laughs.
stole it.
No, I knew that.